Okay, so finally we have, I've been practicing this, GVANTSA Mamatashvili. Mamatashvili, yes. Okay, she is the creator and leader of Dirty Goddesses. Ooh. A series of events that invite women to participate in radical self-expression and the embodiment of the feminine in all its diversity. She is passionate about empowering women to embrace the full range of their creative voice and sensuality, and to step into leadership from a place of deep feminine wisdom. The title of her talk is Feminine Leadership, Activating Your Inner Wisdom and Brilliance. Please welcome GVANTSA Mamatashvili.
What a gorgeous, beautiful evening. I'm so moved by the authenticity of the speakers and by the warmth of this audience. And feeling really excited to be here tonight, sharing with you something I feel deeply passionate about. So something very interesting happened last night. I had a really stressful dream, and I remember in the dream I was rushing somewhere. I was going to a place where I was supposed to deliver some kind of information, and I felt incredibly stressed because I had this fear that something would go wrong. I was worrying about being late or not being able to speak perfectly about something I wanted to share. And then I remember in the dream, as I got out of the bus I took to get to that place, I dropped my notebook. And in that notebook, I had all these notes that were to really support me to deliver my speech. And I saw these notes just flying and ending up in a mud right next to me. And I rushed over and I was trying to rescue them and I couldn't. And I felt so stressed because I thought these notes would really support me to deliver my speech. And then I woke up and I did not remember the dream. I just got on with my day. And basically what happened, at some point in the afternoon, I started to practice what I wanted to speak with you about tonight. And I was really trying so hard to somehow fit my speech in 10 minutes. And as I was practicing, my throat started to shut down. And I started to experience a lot of pain. And I thought, I wonder what's going on. Well, what is it that my body is trying to tell me? And so I took a moment to sit down and take a deep breath. And as I inquired into that, the dream entered my mind. And I remembered it. And it all made sense how these two things were connected. And something was telling me, just drop the worry, the notes, the strategy, the plan. Show up. And you will say what you need to say. And I love this so much because, interestingly enough, my talk about tonight is about embracing the feminine within. And a really big part of it is our ability to surrender to something greater than ourselves. Is the ability to let something happen that wants to come through. So, of course, I was bringing this forward to you and I have to embody it. So I'll let go my initial talk and I'm just going to allow what wants to emerge. And as I talk about this, actually, the lecture comes to my mind, given by an extraordinary woman in 1969. And the title of this lecture is The Masculine and the Feminine Principles in the Creative Process. So she talks about in the lecture what these principles are. And she explores how there are two main principles through which everything is manifested in our world. So the principle number one is the principle of activation. And the second one is getting out of the way and letting it happen. So the first one is really about our ability to deliberately claim something, to set things in motion, to make things happen, and to do so through effort and endeavor. It's an active doing, and this we may call a masculine principle in the creative process. So what the other one? Something that is about letting things be. It's the principle of patience and trustful waiting. It is our ability to really allow what has been set in motion to emerge, to come to fruition. So of course, there is an aspect in there of really surrendering to the process. And this principle is a movement as well, but it's an inner one. So you have to really listen with your inner ears to fully understand what's it about. And this we may call the feminine principle in the creative process. So how does all of this translate when we actually want to create something in the world? And I call this talk Feminine Leadership because I feel called to really participate fully into enriching and shaping our world in my own unique way. And I saw many women and men around me who feel that calling as well. And somehow I have noticed that more often than not, when we move into the world with this desire to really make things happen, we very much rely on active doing. And we usually really struggle to embrace the principle of letting things happen. So that's why I wanted to explore how this feminine principle really manifests in leadership, in actually creating certain things in the world. So this is how it happens. First and foremost, let's imagine planting a seed in the soil. So what happens? We planted a seed, let's say planting a rose seed in the soil. So we have activated it. It germinates, right? So it takes its time underneath the earth to develop. Now, we may not be able to see to actually what's happening beneath the earth, but this does not mean that nothing is happening. So in nature, we understand that sometimes we don't think things, but they take place. So what we do, we create conditions for something to grow. And then in time, when the time is ripe, we see the first shoots. So this is, so if we want to create something, right, I want to invite you to really explore this idea of also us and individuals being coded for something, to carry within a certain unique potential that we can bring forth. And I believe this is really important because when I observe my journey, or even when I talk with people, very often individuals have this sense, the awareness that there is something inside of them that wants to come out. And this is not something we can figure out with our minds. And unfortunately, there are so many teachings out there about discovering your calling that is very much about figuring this thing out through your thought and your mind. And I don't believe it's possible. So the very first step in this process of creating something new is to really come back to ourselves and drop our attention deep within our bodies into these incredible wise concerts that we all have, and to inquire, to ask the question. So the question is, I wonder that what is it that I most deeply desire right now? I wonder what is it that I most yearn to create, to experience, to express, to really give ourselves permission and time to inquire and to allow the answer to emerge. And it will be there. It may not be super clear, it may be a sense, it may be an awareness. So this is where we begin. This is the foundation of really activating that seed of potential that we sense is within us. And as we place attention there, and as we become aware of our deep, authentic yearnings, what we do by that, we activate them. We activate them, and they within themselves carry this energy that can magnetize right people and situations so that it then becomes possible for us to actually create it. Something really beautiful comes to me that I would love to share, because there is a book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, where in one of the chapters about Vasilisa, when she meets Baba Yaga, she was given many tasks to really strengthen her inner power. And one of the tasks for her is to separate poppy seeds from dirt. And so basically, the way it is explained by the author is that often we as human beings, the way we make choices in our lives is based on what is it outside in the world that appeals to us. It's like going into the room where there is a buffet and table after table full of delicious food, amazing choice. And suddenly we'll look over the tables and we may find ourselves thinking, I'm going to have a little bit of this and maybe a little bit of this. And as we look into things that just look interesting, more we look at them, more appealing they become, and suddenly we feel hunger. There was none before. So why is this interesting? It's because then we end up choosing things just because they appeared right in front of us. But this kind of choosing never actually allows us to satisfy our soul craving. And the only way to satisfy that deep soul craving that we have to really inquire, what is it that I am hungry for? And this thing may not be on the table at all. It may be, but most probably it isn't. And the reason why is that many of us actually feel the potential and yearning for things that do not necessarily exist in the world. There is something that wants to be created through us. So that's why it's important that we ask the question. And that actually then eventually allows us to self-actualize. And so you may be wondering that when you have activated your yearnings, when you have inquired, how can you begin to bring them forward? And again, it's about really asking the inner knowing. I have learned from amazing feminine power teachings that I'm involved right now that our intuition is already developed and incredibly powerful. It just needs something to respond to. So when we align with something within ourselves that wants to be created through us, we can actually ask our intuition, I wonder, what is the next step I can take in bringing them forward? I wonder. With openness, with curiosity, we ask that question, and usually we will have the sense of it. And then really it is about being willing to take that step, whether it makes sense to our minds or not. And then when we take that step, then the next step appears, and then the next, and the next, and then the path starts to unfold, which is a very different way of creating something rather than this very linear approach. Choose a goal, a very specific goal that already exists, and then make your strategy and work hard and push hard and sacrifice, and one day eventually you'll be able to achieve it. This is a different way, and this actually is the way that enables us to realize the potentials that we feel within ourselves that absolutely cannot be figured out by our minds. And nobody can tell us what these are. And this is the feminine way. In the creative process, may we all incorporate that as well and become fully integrated in the process of creating our lives. Thank you so much.